The word secession usually brings to mind the separation of Southern states from the Union during the American Civil War. In 1861, however, as states began asserting their rights, and with war breaking out around the country, the idea of secession was not a new one. In fact, more than a decade before the onset of the Civil War, a tiny territory in what is now California had already seceded from the Union, becoming the first secession in American history. In the context of the United States, the term secession refers to the voluntary withdrawal of one or more states from the Union that constitutes the United States. Advocates for secession are called disunionists by their contemporaries throughout various historical documents. Threats and aspirations to secede from the United States, or arguments justifying secession, have been a feature of the country's politics almost since its inception. Some have argued for secession as a constitutional right, and others as a natural right of revolution. During the founding era, many public figures had declared that the states could interpose their powers between their citizens and the power of the federal government, and talk of secession from the Union was not unknown. In 1804, the first real threat of secession in the United States occurred when Timothy Pickering of Massachusetts and a few Federalists envisioned creating a separate New England Confederation, possibly combining with Lower Canada to form a new pro-British nation. As events progressed, the Embargo Act of 1807 was seen as a further threat to the economy of Massachusetts, and the state legislature debated in May of 1808 how they should respond. While these debates generated several references to secession, no real plot ever materialized, and the secessionist movement of 1804 was more a display of concern for the future than a realistic proposal for action in the present. Secession again became a topic of contention during the presidential term of Andrew Jackson. At the time, the so-called 1828 Tariff of Abominations threatened South Carolina's economy, and in turn, the state threatened to secede from the Union. President Jackson, angered by the state's actions, threatened to send federal troops to put down the movement and to hang the leader of the secessionists from the highest tree in South Carolina, causing his vice president, John C. Calhoun, who supported the movement, to become the first U.S. vice president to resign. On May 1, 1833, Jackson wrote, "The tariff was only a pretext. Disunion and Southern Confederacy the real object. The next pretext will be the Negro, or slavery question." South Carolina again threatened to secede in the fall of 1850 over the issue of California's statehood, although it was largely posturing to retain delegates. Earlier that year, however, before California had actually become a state, a tiny territorial town would become the first place to actually secede in U.S. history, the Great Republic of Rough and Ready. Located west of what is now Grass Valley, California, approximately 62 miles from Sacramento, the largely forgotten town of Rough and Ready boomed during the gold rush of the 1850s. Once boasting a population of over 3,000 people, roughly 6 times its current population. Rough and Ready was first established as a settlement in the fall of 1849 during the California Gold Rush by a mining company from Wisconsin known as the Rough and Ready Company. The company's leader, Captain A.A. Townsend, had named the company after General Zachary Taylor, who had recently been elected the 12th President of the United States and who had earned the nickname Old Rough and Ready while fighting during the Second Seminole War. Captain Townsend had served under Taylor when he commanded the American forces during the Black Hawk War of 1832, and recalling those times fondly, he thought the name fitting for the rough and tumble mining town. As prospectors and miners flocked to the area in search of gold, residents grew weary of onerous mining taxes. It's hard to say which tax law specifically annoyed the townsfolk, but it could have been the foreign miner's license law which was passed in 1850 and charged a monthly fee of $20, the equivalent to at least $625 today, for the right to mine gold. Then, taking matters into their own hands, just a year after the town was founded, residents decided to secede from the Union, and thus the United States, on the 7th of April 1850, before California had even become a state, and declared themselves the Great Republic of Rough and Ready. A local resident described the scene, stating, "Tents were pitched on the flat and along the ravines everywhere. A government became needed in the territory to control the rapidly rising population." It was during this uncertainty of 1850 that Colonel E.F. Brundage came up with the concept of a separate republic. He issued a high-sounding manifesto and called a huge meeting to organize a separate nation-state, the state of Rough and Ready. About 100 men became very devoted to him and excitedly began working to build their new country. The rousing speech from Colonel Brundage inspired the town, which quickly filed paperwork with the U.S. government, creating the Great Republic of Rough and Ready. But it didn't take long for the town of nearly 3,000 residents to realize they had made a mistake. Shortly after the secession, some of the townspeople traveled to Nevada City to purchase booze for their annual 4th of July celebration, but were turned down for being foreigners. They returned home to tell their story, and on that very day, July 4th, 1850, the town voted to rejoin the Union. The Great Republic of Rough and Ready had lasted a mere 3 months. Had it achieved full independence, the Republic would have become the world's smallest nation, with an area of only 3/4 of a square mile. Support of secession began to shift to the southern states in 1846, as Southern leaders increasingly felt helpless against a powerful political group that was attacking their interests, causing public and political outrage reminiscent of the Federalist alarms during the beginning of the century. The most serious attempt at secession in the country was advanced between the years of 1860 and 1861, as 11 Southern states each declared secession from the United States and joined to form the Confederate States of America. The movement collapsed in 1865 with the defeat of Confederate forces by the Union Army. With division rampant in modern society, do you think secession could ever happen again in the United States? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video and would like to see more content like this, be sure to take a shot at the like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest BirdDogg content. If you'd like to support the channel, for a limited time there's exclusive Civil War Diaries merchandise available in the video link below.